Hello, this is Kenny Williamson, and welcome back to another episode of Melchizedek Chronicles. In today's episode, we're going to be talking some more about our narcissists. We've been talking about narcissists. We have explained what is a narcissist, 3 types of narcissists, biblical narcissists. We've also discussed narcissistic mind games. Now, today, we're going to be talking just a little bit about how to get away from a narcissist. Okay, so this is some information that I've ran across. I think you'll find it useful, especially if you have a narcissist in your life, or maybe you know somebody who has a narcissist in their life. Maybe you can relate to some of this stuff. You let me know. I know people who have had in-depth dealings with narcissists. I myself have ran across a narcissist or two, and so this is some of the things that I would like to talk about to possibly try to, get away and to get rid of a narcissist. And it's kind of hard to do because from what I have found out doing talking to people and reading is that narcissists and toxic people in general, they seem to have a certain talent for keeping you around and keeping you entangled with them. Somehow, some way, they seem to keep you codependent on them, okay? And we have the narcissist here, but we also, of course, the narcissist has their victim. So the victim can't ever seem to get away even if they want to. And they have some type of a toxic codependency bond that just doesn't allow them to walk out, and in some cases they know they're in this relationship. They just can't seem to get away. They're just stuck there. Also, these narcissists go to great extremes to keep their victims right there with them. Now, one of the things that I have noticed is that these narcissists, they work pretty hard to keep this bond, this toxic little codependency going. And I believe that one of the things they are is they're angry. Okay? Some narcissists are driven and motivated by anger. Now, obviously, they're also motivated by jealousy and other things. But I believe that some are motivated by anger. They're probably angry with their parents. They're angry with other people who possess things that they don't, which is part of the envying. So they're angry with people that have things that they don't. They're probably angry with people that have got away from them and got out of their little narcissistic codependency thing. So they're mad at them. They're angry with themselves. I believe that most of them are angry with themselves because lots of them put on, like I said before, these big fake plastic lives, especially on social media now. But they put on this big fake show for everybody, and it is exactly that. It's fake, and they're angry deep down and miserable, but they want everybody to think they're not, so they're angry about that. Now, one of the things that manifests because of their anger is, of course, their bad attitude and their toxic attitude. And that's one of the things where one of these narcissists, they can hurt you over and over, and they can tell you how worthless you are. I mean, they can literally let you have it. But they still won't really release you, as far as they keep on trying to come back, and they don't really want to let you go, so they just keep on and on and on. And of course, again, like I've said before, they try to tell you how worthless you are, because the more worthless you are, the more it elevates them. Now, in the Bible, in Proverbs chapter 22, verses 24 through 25, it plainly says, "Make no friendship with an angry man, and with a furious man thou shalt not go, lest thou learn his ways and get a snare to thy soul." So what that means basically is you should not even consider having any type of relationship with an angry person. Basically, somebody like that that's very angry and toxic, they can basically snare you, and that's just entrap you. They entrap your mind where you can't get away, and your mind and your will, your emotions are all caught in some type of a trap here, a codependency trap that you can't ever seem to get away from. It's almost impossible to escape. So, I mean, once you're in one of these little traps and in this codependency thing, how do you get out of it? Well, that is a good question, and I'm going to try to explain some things that I have come up with here. And basically, first of all, you have to consider when you're dealing with a narcissist, a full-blown narcissist, they do not have normal thought patterns. Okay, they are not thinking like how you're thinking. They're not thinking like normal people think. They have a completely different psychology in their mind than what you're used to. And I believe that's the case because I believe that narcissists, as I've said before, have a satanic influence. They're being controlled by satanic powers, by demons possibly. Okay, so it's a Luciferian satanic type deal. So you've got these narcissists, and they're not thinking like you are, and they're very smart, and they're very accomplished liars, and it always seems like they're several steps ahead of you. And I've noticed that if you ever try to get ahead of them on what they're doing, like when they're caught in a lie or something, they're always a couple of steps ahead of you. They've already got a lot of bases covered before you ever get there. Okay, and that's because they're slick liars. They're a snake in the grass. That's how they manage to do this. But I think some of them are really too dumb to do that. But how they're doing it is they've got a satanic influence that's kind of getting them through this. So I believe one of the only ways to get rid of anything like this, because it is satanic, is you have to, obviously with prayer, but you've got to tap into God's wisdom and get wisdom from God to be able to get out from underneath this little snare you're in. So basically, one of the things you can do if you're a victim is you need to do everything in wisdom and not do it out of anger or frustration or anything like that. See, a narcissist thrives on your anger and your frustrations and your emotions. That's what it's all about, is those emotions. They can get your emotions running high, they can get you to do things you would normally never do. So what you have to do is you have to react with wisdom from the Bible, from God. And if you can get your responses based on facts and wisdom, it's harder for the narcissist to deal with you because they can't deal with actual wisdom. Okay, they want that emotional reaction. Now, obviously, if you're lacking the wisdom and you're looking for wisdom, like I said, you go to the Bible. Here in the Bible, like in James 1:5, it says, "If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, that giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given to him." So in other words, you need to go to God in prayer and pray to have wisdom given to you so you can recognize what kind of situation you're in and also be able to have the wisdom to get out of this situation that you're in. So I believe that you need to treat dealing with a narcissist like a spiritual demonic battle. You can't treat it like normal flesh and blood like you would any other situation. You have to understand that dealing with a narcissist is basically spiritual and demonic in nature. So you have to fight fire with fire. I mean, you have to use spiritual means to fight this, not just normal things that you would go to. So you have to do a lot of praying. You have to get with God on this. I believe that God is your only source of actual really good wisdom. I mean, you can get some good stuff from people, don't get me wrong, but you definitely need divine wisdom. You need to pray to God and get your strength from God. Now, one of the things they have over you is fear. They can control you with fear and emotions. And basically, to impose fear onto you, let's say, for example, you were married to them, they could threaten you with something like, well, I'll divorce you and I'll take everything you own, or I'll divorce you and I'll take your children and you'll pay me, all this money in child support. So they scare you into control. If you're somebody public in the public eye, they could say, hey, I'm going to threaten you to ruin your reputation. I'm going to send out pictures of you or whatever it takes to try to get you scared, and you're too afraid to leave them or anything like that. So what you're going to have to do is pray, and you're going to have to reject that fear. You're going to have to say, hey, I'm not scared of the consequences of this. And you have to do that consciously, and you need to pray about it, because if you're scared to death, you're never going to be able to break their little grip they have on you if you're scared of what they're going to do. So you're going to have to try to break this little fear cycle. Now, I've noticed that another thing that a narcissist tries to use fear on you, besides the other things I just mentioned, is, and I know you've heard this if you've talked to a narcissist very long, and that's fear of lost love, for example. They basically will try to tell you that they are your only or your last shot at ever finding anyone that could ever love you. They will tell you that there is no one else out there that would ever have anything to do with you but me. And so they want you to believe that they're the only ones that could even tolerate you, and the whole world revolves around them, so you need to stay with them. So they're going to try to scare you that way as well. So basically, these narcissists, they're using fear. Which fear is an unbridled emotion, basically. They're using emotions to try to keep you controlled at all times. Now, one of the ways, other than, not being scared, but another way to get out of this little emotional abuse thing is to become emotionally unpredictable. So, and I know these people, they wear their emotions on their sleeve. You can see and tell exactly what they're thinking. Just go to their Facebook or social media. Go check it out. You can see what they're eating, what they're thinking, what they're doing, what bothers them, what doesn't. So you get on there. So if you're a narcissist, you can use that information to control somebody. So what you've got to do is be the opposite. You see, these narcissists, they can do their little thing they're doing, and they can figure you out based on basically predicting your actions and your reactions to their antics. So in other words, they say something they know you're going to blow up, and they're feeding on that. They're feeding on that anger and the emotions. So next time they say something, you just don't blow up. See, you do the opposite of what you would normally do. So you do the opposite, and it throws them off. And they don't know how to handle that. See, and thing is you as a victim, you're basically defenseless until you can get a handle on your emotions. If your emotions are running wild, and like I say, you're very predictable how you're going to throw a fit, they can use that against you because they always know how you're going to act. So what you've got to do to break this little habit and this fear and this codependency is you're going to have to do the opposite of what you normally did with them, and you're going to have to be unpredictable. That way they just can't just get full control. They've got to stop and think and say, what's he doing? What is this person doing? This is not like them. And then it throws them off. Throws them off their game, see? One of the things you can do to do that is talk less and listen more. That's one of the things you can do. And you can ask more questions than usual. Basically, when you talk less, you become more unpredictable because people don't know what's on your mind. So instead of just talking and talking and talking and spilling your guts, basically, you just clam up. Just basically keep your big mouth shut and don't sit there and tell everybody what's on your mind and what you're doing. That way, they have no idea what you're thinking about. So they don't know what your emotions are because you're not telling them. And, like in the Bible, in James 1, it says, "Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath." So, the Bible's telling you basically in as many words here, listen and don't talk. And also be very slow to anger. Don't get mad over nothing. Just be slow to anger. That's those emotions coming out. The devils love those emotions. They love for emotions to run high. That way they can take full advantage of you. So basically, if you want to be emotionally, indetectable, and so nobody knows what your emotions are, you're going to have to keep your big mouth shut sometimes. You need to stop talking about the way you feel to people that you can't trust, especially, but you cannot be posting the way you feel all over social media and letting all these narcissists and people figure out exactly what you're thinking and doing. So that is one of the things, I've said it before, they say TMI, too much information, is, just don't put out too much information about yourself. Another thing is don't confront them or expose them on social media. Okay, you know what they've been doing. You know what they're up to. You've probably caught them. You probably even know who they're doing some of this stuff with. But don't go onto social media and start blasting them, and, ridiculing them and doing this whole little thing. Just don't even say a word because, well, they're expecting you to do something so they can have a fight and so they can play the victim. And of course, this is all about attention. It's all about attention for them. And any way to get you to look bad or fight them in some way will elevate them and bring more attention to them. And of course, it'll bring a lot of attention in the form of people saying, "Oh, I can't believe they did that to you," when actually they're the ones doing it. So your goal here with a narcissist is not to get even, okay? Your goal is to get out and to get away from them so they'll quit abusing you. I mean, yes, you probably have all kinds of dirt on them and you could run them, throw them under the bus, but that is not your goal. And you're above that because you're supposed to be doing the right thing. You're a normal person who's a Christian, and you're not supposed to be having fights on social media or anywhere else for that matter. Okay. In Proverbs 29:11 says, "A fool gives full vent to his spirit, but a wise man quietly holds it back." So, you just don't play your hand. You know what cards you've got. You know what they've got. You know what kind of person they are. You know what they've been doing, but just don't play your hand. Do not fall into that, I'm going to get you type deal. You're not trying to get even, like I said. Now, another thing that you need to do on this also is you need to, of course, you're not telling them anything on social media. You're concealing your hand. You're not relaying everything you do. You're not showing anybody your emotions, what you really think or feel. And I wouldn't go on there and do opposite either and put a bunch of fake stuff on there to try to make people jealous, because that you're doing the same thing as they are then, because then you're fake and plastic. So forget that. But another thing you need to do is probably break all contact with a narcissist. You need to cut off all communication with them. You need to basically go cold turkey, as far as cutting it off. You need to just stop. So no contact, no text messages, no phone calls, no going over and over emails. You need to block them on social media. You do not need to be looking at what they're doing. Don't need to be looking at what they're posting. You don't need to be getting in contact with them any shape, form, or fashion, and they don't need to be contacting you. So, and the last thing you need to do, like I said on social media, is sit there and going back and forth and looking at all their stuff, when you have to understand everything they're doing is to aggravate and to get emotional responses for manipulation and control and to make them look good. And they're going to do that through their social media and other people's social media. That's their narcissistic friends, basically, if that's what they even are, or they're other victims and don't realize it. But so you need to stay away from all of them and all their friends. Just no contact whatsoever. Now, if for some reason you were married to one of these narcissists and you've got kids with them or something like that, and you have to, deal with them in some way, one of my suggestions that I've seen before is that you need to, of course, you need to be prayed up, and you need to, insulate yourself from these people, and you definitely don't want to get any of these emotions going again. So basically, you need to control your words, completely control them, and your emotions. And one way to insulate yourself and control your emotions is to basically master yes and no responses. So basically, you don't need to expand on any conversations, okay? If a question is asked, the answer either is yes or no, if that's what it can be. And there may be some awkward silence involved with that, where it's like, yes, no. And they're sitting there looking at you, wanting you to, continue to speak and just basically spill your guts. But don't. Just say, no, I'm not doing that, or yes, I'll do that. So you need to just keep it as simple as possible with no extra information added, because these narcissists, they want to play off your emotions. They want to play off what you're saying, and they're going to be able to tell by what you're saying, what you're thinking, what you're angry about. So you need to intentionally limit your words when you're talking to a narcissist. Everything has to be simple. Now, another thing when you're trying to get out from under one of these narcissists is you can't be friends. I mean, if you have to deal with one, it needs to be strictly business. Anytime you attempt to be a friend to one of these narcissists, keep in mind, by the time you've got to this situation, they've caused you all kinds of grief. They've caused you suffering. You know they're a narcissist. You know they're a compulsive liar. They're a very good liar. They're being controlled by demons. This is a satanic type thing they're doing. They've got all their bases covered. They've got all their buddies in place to give them your fake alibis, everything they need to go run off and do their little thing they do, and then pretend it's all you. So they've already given you all the grief and mental stuff you can possibly handle. And so you can't afford to say, well, let's just be friends, and end up opening yourself up again to the same abuse pattern over and over and over, because that's exactly what they're going to do. They don't really want to be your friend, because they never wanted to be your friend. They never loved you to begin with. It's all about them and what they want and how they feel. So yeah, they're going to say, well, we'll just be friends then. And that's just another way to slip back in, like in the Hoover maneuver, where they just come back around whenever they decide they want to, and all of a sudden they're your friend when they need you, or need you to be the victim, that is. So you can't be friends. Another thing you need to think about is anticipation of manipulation. So once you get used to these narcissists, they do the same thing over and over. I mean, they're literally a broken record. You know what they're going to do, so you just anticipate whatever they're going to do and try to counter that before it ever happens. So, anticipate their behavior and respond rather than react. So you know what they're going to do, so don't get emotional and get mad. Just, do whatever you need to do, but do not all of a sudden act like you're surprised when they do something, because you're not surprised. They do this stuff all the time. So you already know what they're going to do, so you need to be ready for that, and basically take control of the situation, or take control of your mind and your emotions before this encounter or whatever they're doing ever happens. That way you stay in control, and now you're not being governed by your emotions. Now, in these situations, of course, you need to obviously rely on God to help, keep yourself in control and all that stuff. You need to rely on God, because if you try to manage the situation all on yourself, and pretend that you can do it, God's not going to help you out if you're like, I don't need God, I can do it. But what you need to do is turn it over to God in prayer. And I believe that God will help you, and he will allow the Holy Spirit's power, to come into you and withstand some of this temptation you're going to have to try to, get back in and reconnect with this person when you should be totally avoiding this person. So you're going to need, you're going to need power from God for this as well. Don't just try it on your own. You need to do lots of prayer. Another one of the ways they'll try this is, they're going to want closure, and, they're always searching for an answer. I've heard this one myself is like, I need answers. I've got to have answers. There's always a question, and they always need answers, even though it's them, and, everybody can see what the clear answer is. But, basically there's no clear answer. They wouldn't believe you even if you told them what the answer was. They won't listen. So they're just trying to, use that to just keep this thing going, just keep this thing perpetuating, constantly looking for something that just keeps you engaged with them. And, it's crazy that if you think the person who was acting as a narcissist to begin with actually wants closure, when they're the ones that's the problem, basically it's just another way to keep you hooked. So you need to just avoid that as well. When it comes to the closure, just say, I don't need any of that, and break off all communications. Of course, that's going to throw them off because they're wanting this to continue this endless cycle and loop of dependency and codependency. Now, in reality, if you really did want closure, basically choosing to forgive them, even though they're a dirty, rotten snake in the grass and a scoundrel, choosing to forgive them is the closure. Obviously you're not going to forget it, but you forgive them because obviously they're satanic, they're devil possessed, they probably don't have any control over themselves. So you forgive them, and you move on. And when you forgive somebody like that, that is basically releasing that person, and it disconnects you emotionally. And once you've been disconnected emotionally, you're able to possibly move on and get on with your life and think about other things instead of this closure, these untied loose ends that are still out there. This narcissist is never going to tie up any loose ends, okay? There's no such thing as that. They're basically out for whatever they're out for. It's all about them. It's all about their pride and their whole look at me, their whole deal. They don't care about you. They don't love you. They don't really want closure. So what you're going to have to do is just break off communication and just say, look, I forgive them, and move on. And that way, that will be the closure, is your forgiveness. One of the things that you can focus on in this whole deal is the lessons that you've learned. I've talked to several people that have had narcissistic abuse for possibly years, and they've learned a lot of good lessons from experience. And so basically you need to learn the lessons from your experience and not worry about the feelings of your emotions. Okay, you can't get all emotional about it and get into your feelings. You need to realize, look, this has happened. Now I can see what's happening, and you've learned a valuable lesson. And this is going to basically help you for the future. Number one, hopefully you won't fall into another one of these traps by some narcissist. You'll see all these red flags pop up right in the beginning, and then once you've figured that out, you're going to be able to step back and see what's happened, in the past with these other narcissists. And you're going to figure out, that these narcissists have done absolutely nothing for you, but basically wreck your life and damage you emotionally. So, that's what you're going to see. You're going to say, oh my goodness, look what I've been through. So you need to learn from that. And when you're learning from this, like I said, do not get back into your emotions or feelings, because it's these emotions that have got you has got you and kept you in this toxic bond up to this point. It's your emotions and feelings is what's kept you with this narcissist and allowed them to completely manipulate you. So you need to shut off those emotions, and start coming back to logic and looking logically, at what's happening here and what has been happening. And then you can take lessons from your experience and say, okay, I see what's happening now. I see what's going on. And you'll soon see that, like I've said before, these narcissists, they have like a track record. They're like a broken record. They almost all do the same thing. It's not like this is one in particular narcissist. I mean, I've talked to several people and read several books and did a lot of studying, and it seems that they're all the same. Now, every narcissist may not have every one of the things I've talked about, but they always have at least one or two. And I've talked to people and they're like, yeah, that's exactly it. They didn't do this, but they did this, this, and this. And they all do the same thing, and they do it like a broken record. So, if you get caught up in your emotions instead of, logic, you'll never learn from anything. You'll just be stuck in it. But, once you see what's going on, start learning, get into prayer, get out of this thing and break off communications and step back. That's when you're going to start really seeing what's been happening, and hopefully you'll learn from it. Now, once you have been through this, okay, and you have figured this out, you've listened to this stuff, you've talked to other people, you've been abused by a narcissist, and, you know all this stuff, and you don't learn any of the lessons that we've talked about. You just keep going back, okay? And you're being abused, you don't like it, but you keep going back. You know all this stuff, you're in a toxic relationship, the person doesn't love you, but you keep going back, okay? At some point when you do this, basically you're no longer a victim of a narcissist, okay? You're no longer the victim. You're now the volunteer, okay? You may have used to been the victim, but now that you know what's going on and you know what's going on around you, you've been informed. People have told you. You've listened to these podcasts. Maybe you've read a book. You can see what's going on, and you still do it. You still go back and you allow a narcissist to just absolutely destroy your life and wreck you emotionally. You're no longer a victim. You're a volunteer. And in that situation, you are no longer a player. You are the payer. Okay? You know it, and you're emotionally being abused, and you will pay for it. I mean, you're going to pay for it in how you feel, everything you do, stuff you give up. Your family and friends will probably be angry at you. You may even have to give up your kids for it. Your kids are going to want to run off. No telling what's going to happen. I mean, you're going to pay. Okay, you are going to pay, because that's what a narcissist does to you, is they make you pay. They're the one up on the pedestal while you're footing the bill, okay? They're up on a pedestal at your expense. That's just the way it is. It's all about them. They're completely self-absorbed into themselves. You know it. I know it. You still like it, or you claim you don't like it. You don't want to leave. You're no longer a victim. You're a volunteer. I hope that's not you. Okay, I hope you're not a volunteer in this and willing to just sit there and be abused emotionally. Because, there are lots of people out there, majority of people that are not narcissists. So, I think you could probably run across many, many people who are completely normal, just like you, who don't want to be abused, who don't want to be lied to continuously, who don't want to be, constantly made a fool of, and constantly, trying for them to make you think that you're crazy. You've done nothing wrong. You're trying to do the right thing. You're a Christian. You make mistakes because you're a sinner, of course. But, you repent for those sins. You pray to God and ask him for forgiveness, and you want to do the right thing. You do. And then, you want to help a narcissist. You really do. You want to help them, and you feel bad for them, because they've always got problems. And of course they're always inflicted problems because they're narcissists, and they've burned every bridge they can come across, because it's all about them and they don't have any empathy. They don't care. And you really want to help them. I understand that. 100%. But let me tell you what it's like. It's like if you were on a safari, okay, and you see a lion, and it's all caught up, in stickers or a barbed wire fence. It's just completely wound up in a barbed wire fence, and it's in a lot of pain, and it's hurting, and it's crying, and it's got blood coming out of it, and you feel so sorry for that animal, that lion, that you get out of your protected bus that you're in, and you get over there and you cut it out of the barbed wire fence. Well, after you cut this lion out of the barbed wire fence, do you think that it's going to, thank you for it? Do you think it's going to love you for it? No. It's going to have you as its lunch. Okay, it's going to do what all lions do. It's going to turn on you, and it's going to eat you up. It's going to eat you alive. That's what it's going to do. It's not going to thank you for it or love you for it or appreciate it in any way. So you're going to get out of that tour bus and go over there and cut that lion out of that barbed wire fence? Because that's what happens whenever you leave the safety of your mind, okay, the safety of your family and friends, and get in here and try to save a narcissist because you feel sorry for them. No, they've got themselves entangled in that stuff. It's their own doing because they're liars and they're cheaters and they're dirty, rotten scoundrels. They have no empathy. They're satanic. They've burned every bridge they can. They've hurt every person they can because it's all about them. And yeah, they're probably in a mess. They're probably miserable in a mess, and you cannot help them, or you will for sure be their next victim. Guaranteed. You cannot do it. So anyway, I sure hope this message has helped somebody out. I plan on possibly doing some more on narcissism and some other topics. If you like it, please share it or like it, or however you do that on these podcast apps. Like it, leave a comment, whatever you think. You can also get in touch with us at Truth Seekers. Let's see, what is it? truthseekers2012@gmail.com. You can get a hold of us there. You can also go to our website at kennywilliamson.com. You can get in touch with us on that as well. So please give us an email. Let me know what you think. Please like and share. And if you'd like to give and be a member, of course, you can give anything you want, $1 if you wanted to, or nothing. But if you want to be a member of the 777 Club, it's $30 a month, and you'll get some stickers and possibly some free Bibles and some free stuff, some swag, if you will. And also you can be on a podcast if you want. So think about it, and if you're interested, fine. If not, that's okay too. We offer everything for free at no cost to you. So thanks again for listening, and God bless.